Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and today it's yet another video in my 2024 NFL offseason prediction series. It's the Denver Broncos. Make sure you hit the like, comment, and subscribe. I'd like to thank you guys. I'm seeing videos get to thousands of views now, 500 plus subscribers. I really appreciate it. And if you guys can just keep subscribing for guys that haven't yet, that would be so appreciated. I really appreciate you guys. Doesn't seem like much in the grand scheme of YouTube, but it means a lot to me. So I just want to say that up front. But with the Denver Broncos, they're a team that has been taking some wild swings over the last couple seasons. You saw them bring in Nathaniel Hackett, try to get Aaron Rodgers. That backfired, so they sold the farm to get Russell Wilson, which flopped 90% of the time he's been there. Then they went, maybe it's a coach thing. We'll throw a first-round pick and a bunch of day 2 picks at the Saints to get the rights to Sean Payton. And then Sean Payton really couldn't turn it all that much around either. It was a better team. Yeah, but clearly there was some issues with Russell Wilson. And it seems like Russell Wilson is the scapegoat for why this team did not perform up to snuff. And they benched in the last two games of the year. How they get out of his contract, though, is going to be a real struggle. They are over the cap coming in. They will need to depart with some key veteran players on both sides of the football. They're going to need to navigate their salary cap very, very carefully because they're going to want to be active in the free agency market as well, because they do have some pieces that on position groups on both sides of the ball that need instant improvement. And the only way you get true instant improvement is through free agency. If you're looking for more long-term, slow burn development, that's where you go with the draft. I do expect them to do that with the quarterback position, and we'll get to that. But what we need to start with is the head coach and where this team sort of filled out last season. So, of course, their head coach is Sean Payton, who they traded for last year. They gave up a first-round pick in last year's draft. They gave up a second-round pick in this year's draft. I think that was the compensation. Was there a third-round pick in last year's draft also? Maybe. No, actually, no, there wasn't. But he's the guy that they pretty much put the entire franchise on. They thought that he could make it work with Russell Wilson as the end of the season, as we talked about. Didn't work out. The beginning of the year, they were god-awful. And then they had that 70-point game where Miami just wiped the floor with them. But that somehow kind of woke them up. I think Sean Payton at that point was like, okay, enough is enough. This is my team. I was brought in to do a job here. I'm not going to appease Russell Wilson. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. And they actually were able to produce a relatively good offense in some aspects. But overall, it was still just not a great offensive production out of this football team. And I think you got to put that on Russell Wilson just not being the guy, being washed, frankly. And maybe it's just a change of scenery thing. Maybe this was a humbling experience for him. Being 27th in pass attempts, being 24th in passing yards. They did throw the ball into the end zone pretty well, but they weren't getting the yards, and then they were like sort of middle of the pack in rushing. Didn't rush the ball well into the end zone. Didn't really produce a whole lot on third down or in the red zone. Red zone, they're kind of middle of the pack also. Bottom half of the league in turnovers. The sacks allowed, they invested a lot in that offensive line. Ben Powers was brought in. Mike McGlinchey was brought in. And I think that they're going to maintain a lot of that. Because I do think Lloyd Cushenberry did have a really good season. He's an impending free agent. We'll get to him. Quinn Miners had a great season as well. Garrett Bowles is, the epitome of kind of solid, but do you move on from him because of the salary cap situation? It's really it's a thing where how much of that is on Russell Wilson, holding onto the ball too long, running into sacks, not having the pocket awareness. I think that them plugging in their own quarterback, the quarterback Sean Payton wants, because the other thing is that, Russell Wilson's not even really the quarterback this team wanted for this offense. He was, it was supposed to be Aaron Rodgers with Nathaniel Hackett. Then Sean Payton comes in, and this isn't his quarterback. He's kind of inheriting it, and he's like, okay, I'll try to make it work for a year, and it's not. It just hasn't worked. Hasn't worked well at all. Then you get to the defense. The defense didn't really perform all that much better. They were pretty good with turnovers. They were great on third down. But the process on getting to third down when they were getting run all over, 30th in rush yards allowed, 22nd in pass yards allowed, they just couldn't make it work. They were giving up a lot of points. The red zone, they weren't great. They weren't really getting sacks. So if they were first and second down, they were just not a good football team. And teams were able to get ahead of schedule on them, way ahead of schedule on them. But maybe if they added a few pieces, particularly probably in the pass rush, they're going to be able to maybe turn it around, because that third down percentage is very good. That's elite level third down percentage, second in the league. That's elite level. So if they can maybe get the sack numbers up a bit, then that will help them be more productive on the defensive side of the ball. But then there's the rumors that they're going to be willing to trade Patrick Surtain because they're valuing having a top 10 offense faster, and then allowing the offense to maybe help the defense sort of dictate the pace of a game a bit, which is not a terrible strategy in the modern NFL. If you have a top 10 offense, then you're sort of forcing the hand of your opponents to act a certain way, and it does make things easier on your defense. But I still think Denver needs pieces in that front four. I think the linebacking group is pretty good. They drafted Drew Sanders last year, who's sort of like an inside-outside linebacker type. He's sort of redundant with Baron Browning. So I don't know what his role's sort of going to be next year, with Nick Bonito out there as well. Are they going to invest in an edge rusher? Maybe in the draft. But as you'll see, the salary cap situation is going to be one they're going to have to very much navigate carefully. So they're starting with almost $24 million over the salary cap. So they're going to have to do some gymnastics here to figure out how to get under the cap. And everyone's talking about them releasing Russell Wilson. That's a $40 million cap hit on top of this. So that would put them at $64 million over the cap if they cut Russell Wilson before June 1st. But if they designate him for a post-June 1st release, then it's a $0 cap hit. They don't get cap. They don't lose cap. It'll be a wash. So that's what I have him designated as down there. You also see I'm cutting DJ Jones at $9.9 million. That's a lot of money in a guy who wasn't overly productive. Tim Patrick at $9.5 million cap savings. Again, a guy that's just hasn't been productive since he signed that contract. You got to get out of it. And the big one is Justin Simmons, $14.5 million cap savings. Moving on from him, maybe they trade him instead and get like a day 3 pick for him. But the lack of production this year was telling. We're restructuring Mike McGlinchey to get $10.4 million in cap savings. We're restructuring Cortland Sutton to get $6 million in cap savings. We're extending Garrett Bowles, 3 years, $26 million base, $25 million bonus with a void year in there to help spread out the cap hit a little bit. And we're going to extend Jerry Jeudy at a 5-year, $40 million base with a $40 million bonus. I think that's Christian Kirk money. He hasn't been overly productive since coming into the league, but I think Sean Payton will find a good role for him. And you want to keep, talented, high upside receivers. And when you have the route running ability of Jerry Jeudy, it's a matter of having a quarterback in place that will trust his eyes and trust the timing and throw him the football properly. They do have some re-signings out there as well. Josie Jewell, 2 years, $6 million base, $4 million bonus, throw 2 void years in there, spread that out. And it's basically a null cap hit to sort of keep a linebacker who played well 2 years ago, was kind of middle of the pack now, but will help you out. He's sort of like a balanced linebacker. Not really high end, but still balanced enough that he can be valuable. Michael Burton was one of the best fullbacks in the league. I think adding him at a cheap contract is, I think, a no-brainer to help out that running game. And the big ones like Cushenberry, the center, give him a 4-year, $25 million base, $25 million bonus, throw a void year in there as well, and you get to keep him, becomes one of the highest paid centers in the league. I believe this was the Ryan Kelly contract that I mimicked. So he's going to be making about what Ryan Kelly's making, which I think was like the third or fourth most for a center in the league. But the big story, I think, is the cuts and moving on from Justin Simmons and Russell Wilson. Russ is just to get the money off the books for next year, not having to worry about paying him some big money or anything like that, like roster bonuses and all that kind of crap that come up in his deal, and just being able to move on, let him go to another team rather than him sitting on the bench. You're not going to be able to trade him or anything like that, and if you do trade him, you're going to take a cap hit. So it's just not worth it. You got to kind of figure out a way to move on, and that's the best way to do it, it seems. So I did position them to now have $32 million in spending cap for free agency, so they can add pieces to their roster that are necessary, that are going to actually help them. Guys that Sean Payton hopefully will really like. And we'll look at some of the needs. Obviously, the quarterback's a need. We can look at the tight end position. Sean Payton's really done well with tight ends historically as a coach. The interior offensive line, you're sort of looking at, I would say, building more depth there because Ben Powers didn't have a great year. So maybe you want to look to get somebody in there that can be a nice little swing piece on the interior. You want to get edge and DB help, though. I think that's a big priority for them on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that's really what's going to help them the most. The linebacker room is really the only place where there seems to be a true strength. And they have, they gave Zach Allen a pretty good contract. So maybe you want to look for somebody who's more a traditional interior guy, not sort of like a 3-4 end hybrid type. So there are a couple free agency targets that I think they can really go for. And we'll start with Adoree Jackson. This is the void year of his contract with the Giants. He'll hit the free agency market. Give him a 3-year, $20 million contract, $25 million bonus with 2 void years. This is very similar to the contract that he signed when he initially came to the Giants. It's a little bit more than that. The void years help spread out this cap hit significantly for them, and they can low end the first year. And this becomes a really good complement, a veteran complement for Patrick Surtain on the outside. And Adoree Jackson can kick inside. He didn't really, when he kicked inside for the Giants this year, it wasn't his best performances, but as a outside corner, an outside number 2 corner in particular, I think it'll be a really good addition for this team. And then a very similar face for Sean Payton is Michael Thomas. I think you can get him pretty cheap because he just hasn't performed over the last couple of years. I think you can bring him in. He takes the spot of Tim Patrick, basically. It's somebody that I think Sean Payton will trust to be able to know the offense properly, be able to run everything the right way, help out whoever the quarterback is, help out these other receivers. You get a 2-year, $5 million contract, $15 million bonus. So you put most of the money into his bonus, give him a low base salary, and you get 2 void years in there. So he's going to be making some money, and then you can always renegotiate next year if he does finally blow up again. And then we're looking at another one, Sheldon Rankins. If you notice with these 2 signings in particular, keep the base salary low and then put a lot of the money in the bonus and then void year it out to spread out the bonus for the longer duration of the contract. Really keep the cap hit down. That's really the way they're going to have to navigate this offseason, is put a lot of money into the bonuses and execute the void years in particular to be able to keep these yearly cap hits down so that they can be this active in free agency without completely hindering their ability to get into that third wave of free agency where they're going to need to fill out their roster. So even with those signings, still $15.7 million, used only about half of it to get 3 guys who are going to be instant contributors on this team. And then next year with all the cap space you cleared up with the cuts that you made and everything, you're going to be able to get yourself back in a good position salary-wise. So for me, the Denver draft strategy is really simple. You get your quarterback, and you get him by any means necessary. Maybe it's that whoever QB4 is, maybe Jaden Daniels drops and you only got to move up a couple spots so you don't really give up a lot of draft capital. You can maybe use some of the 2025 picks instead of having to worry because you don't pick in the second round, so you got to get the third round pick here. So you really, but you need to get somebody in there. You're not going to use Jarrett Stidham. You got to get a rookie quarterback, get one that Sean Payton likes, Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy. It's looking more and more like maybe J.J. McCarthy is just the pick at 12. That wouldn't surprise me at all at this point. And then we're looking at pass defense for the rest of the way. You need to improve that. You were great on third down, but you need to, you need to put yourself in a position where teams aren't going to be able to throw the ball all over you the way they kind of did, where Patrick Surtain was really the only difference maker out there, and you weren't getting a pass rush. So, you can focus on that. There are some really good edge rushers in this draft. There's some really good defensive backs in this draft that you can really build out a nice roster, a nice deep roster on the defensive side of the ball, and then sort of let Sean Payton do his work on the offensive side with the players that he has. Because it does seem like last year they did add some pieces in there that did work well. It just seems plugging in the right quarterback is what he needs. So you do that for Sean Payton's offense and then just worry about the defense and getting stops to not put whoever this quarterback is going to be in bad positions and have him have to outperform his level of experience in the NFL, which is probably going to be 0. And there you have it. My Denver Broncos offseason prediction video for the 2024 offseason. Leave me know in the comment section what you think. There were some controversial moves there for sure. I think the Justin Simmons one is going to divide a lot of people in the comments. But when you look at the cap situation, guys, it's very necessary, especially if they just eat a bunch of cap for cutting Russell Wilson or trading Russell Wilson. That's going to be a negative cap hit to an already really bad cap situation. So it's going to be necessary. You're going to be losing some key guys. I tried to save the roster. I tried to save them with contract extensions. It's tough. It's going to be a tough year. But you get the right quarterback in place. This team, I think, it's tough. It's tough. You picked a real bad time to try to hit a home run and try to win a championship in a small window, considering the strength of the division, strength of the conference. But I like to thank you guys for watching this video as I stumble and fumble through this outro. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Again, the subscriptions mean everything to me. Thank you so much for doing it, and I will see you guys with the next video next time.